Okay, here we are at the Milwaukee Press Club here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the Newsroom Pub, and I am with your name.
David Niles.
David, what's your role here at the...
I'm a past president and currently treasurer of the endowment, which supports scholarships for journalism students and just do a lot of odds and ends for the club.
How did you get involved in the club, the press club?
I had been a journalist for many years and wanted to be part of something in Milwaukee that had other people that were doing what I was doing, so have enjoyed the association very much.
Maybe for those who don't know about the Milwaukee Press Club, what is it?
The Milwaukee Press Club actually is the oldest continuously operating press club in North America. We've been around since 1885. We have a number of events. We support scholarships for upcoming journalists. We have a media hall of fame, and we just try to make sure that journalism is a strong profession and that the journalists in Milwaukee and southeastern Wisconsin are doing a fair job and reporting the news accurately and fairly.
Absolutely. Is this the only event that you do all year?
We actually have a number of events. We have a gridiron banquet that we honor winners of. We have a journalism contest every year for working journalists and for college students. We have a Hall of Fame banquet in the fall. We actually sponsor and manage the Milwaukee City Birthday Party. That's a real big event for us. And then we have just about every month and sometimes multiple times a month what we call Newsmaker Luncheons, where we bring in a speaker of some newsworthy prominence, and that person just addresses the club, and a panel of journalists asks questions about whatever the issue might be.
If someone want to get involved, is there like a website or Facebook?
Yes, we have a website. It's MilwaukeePressClub.org, MilwaukeePressClub.org, and that has all the information on membership, on the history of the club, and on our events. A little bit of where we're standing today is interesting that we're surrounded by some signatures on the walls, and we have a rather historic signature collection of about 2,500 signatures of important people who have visited the club, including kings and queens, presidents, and what have you. And that's a really interesting part of our club.
Isn't there a little history of the Newsroom Pub?
There is a newsroom. These signatures were many of these signatures were originally on the walls of a building adjacent to here. And then when the club, because they were poorly managed at the time, this was many, many years ago, were evicted in the middle of the night, the club members went into the room and cut the signatures out of the walls. And so some of our signatures here are actually walls from an adjacent building.
Well, this is absolutely a great event. Again, support the Milwaukee Press Club. And David, thank you so much for talking today.
Thank you. Glad to talk.
We are at the Newsroom Pub at the Milwaukee Press Club annual event, and I'm with your name?
John Cary.
John, great to have you here. Again, congratulations on the honor here tonight.
I'm the director of the MAC Fund, and I had just retired after 36 years. And the award that I received was for community service. And I've just been fortunate to do what I've done, and I actually know a lot of people in the media, and I was very fortunate with that as well.
Well, let's highlight things have you done for the community service?
Well, I've been the director of the MAC Fund, which raises money for childhood cancer research and blood disorder research. Done that for about 36 and a half years, and just retired from that. And I guess they thought that was good enough.
How'd you get involved in the MAC Fund?
Well, we actually had a very good family friend who had a child who had leukemia, and back in 1982 I thought it would be nice to try to help him, and I stayed for 36 and a half years and helped contribute about $63 million to research.
If someone wants to donate or get involved with the MAC Fund, is there like a website?
Yeah, they can just go to MACFund, MACCFund.org, and we're on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube, all different kinds of things.
Great. Well, John, we thank you so much for coming to this event, and again, congratulations on this honor, and we appreciate it for all your help and your service.
Thank you very much.
Okay, here we are at the Milwaukee Press Club event at the Newsroom Pub, and I'm honored to be here with an excellent journalist and author and everything in between, Jill Heisler. Jill, who's being honored tonight as well. Jill, well, first of all, how did you get involved in journalism?
I was editor of my high school paper, the Pulaski Cavalier on the south side of Milwaukee, and that really gave me the bug. I really wanted to pursue journalism.
Everybody remembers you on Channel 6, and it was just absolutely terrific. How were those days back, working back?
Well, it was a long time ago. I started at Channel 6 in 1973 as a reporter, and in 1978 became news director, which was a pretty exciting thing because there weren't very many women who had that job at the time. But wonderful people like Carl Zimmerman took a chance on me and trusted me to run this newsroom, leading people that I'd grown up watching. So it was a challenge, it was an honor, and I sure didn't want to let them down. And I ended up being there for 25 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the highlights you always did was the Jerry Lewis MDA telethon. Right?
Here tonight at this wonderful event were people who had worked with MDA, friends of the family whose son was the National Goodwill Ambassador, Mike Neufeld. Last year, when Jerry Lewis passed away, we were blessed to be invited to his memorial service. So my husband and I and the Neufelds all went to the service for him, which was a lovely memorial, and got a chance to spend time with his wife and daughter in Las Vegas.
Well, let's hear about, I know that you wrote a book, and let's hear all about your author.
Sure. Well, when I left WYTI in 1998, I accepted a faculty position with a place called the Poynter Institute, which is in St. Petersburg, Florida, and it's a training ground for mid-career journalists. And I was responsible for all the leadership and management programs. And while I was there, I got a master's degree in leadership studies, and I created a podcast and wrote columns, and that led to a book. And the book is called Work Happy, What Great Bosses Know, and that was published in 2012. And then as a result of that, I ended up getting invited to newsrooms around the world and even non-newsrooms. And so I spend a lot of time working with organizations that want to have better culture in their organization, better managers in their organization. You can't have a good culture without good managers. You can't do good journalism without good managers. And so my goal is to make better journalism through having better leadership.
Well, it comes to the question is of today's journalism. Do you feel there's like an attack now on journalism? Because let's hear all your views since you've been in the business.
Sure. Well, without question, there are individuals, and you and I know who they are, who call us enemy of the people. The president, whether you are a Republican or a Democrat, it's not about the politics of what he's doing. It is about the idea that if you don't like the reporting, you should not call it fake news unless you can prove, in fact, that there is a problem. And journalists, if there is an error, the difference with journalists and others is that journalists acknowledge their error. They run corrections. They shouldn't make mistakes, but human beings do. They acknowledge. That's not fake news. Fake news is when people are intentionally deceiving, when they're dummying up photos, right, which is happening now online to a great degree. When they're citing conspiracy theories that have no foundation in fact, or when, if you don't like what a reporter is saying, you call it fake news and expect that people who like you, who believe in your politics, will then not believe the journalism. That's dangerous in the long term, because today it could be a Republican who's saying it, tomorrow it's a Democrat, but at the end of the day, we need to know that there are people who really come to work each day dedicated to be neutral in the way that they report, and to have a process, which is what journalism is all about, for holding each other accountable, for saying, Jason, listen, you're reporting on hunting, so I know you're a hunter. How does that affect what you're doing to give us more information, and how might that make you biased in favor in case there's a story that's, of people criticizing hunters? Well, we talk like that in newsrooms all the time to make sure we filter out, we take the best of your knowledge and filter out the worst of what might be the biases that everybody has.
Well, that's what Robert Redford just recently said. It's like we're seeing a repeat back in the 70s.
Yep.
So, but I think the solution is we got to bring back Albert the Alley Cat.
That's right. Because when Albert the Alley Cat was around, everybody was happy.
Well, and you kept that news directing of just a fun atmosphere, but still reporting the news accurately.
Well, Albert was a special part of my life, and he was a good friend and made more jokes at my expense than I can even begin to tell you. And in my office today, I have a statue of Albert.
Oh, great. Well, what's upcoming for you? Another book, or or the loyal? What people should?
What's coming up for me? I'm creating new curriculum for newsrooms around the country. I'm working with places that range from NPR to doctors on the West Coast, which has nothing to do with journalism, but they bought the book and they wanted to know how to be better chief physicians. So I have a lot of journalism projects, especially aimed at bringing up the new generation of journalists and making sure that there are more women and people of color in the ranks of leaders.
Well, Jill, thank you so much for coming to this event. Congratulations on such an honor here for tonight. You're just doing excellent work in your career, and thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you so much.